When you were born again, His genes came into yours spiritually. You became His adopted son, daughter, and He doesn't kick you out of the family just because you cursed instead of blessed that driver. We can't look at circumstances and let them drive our definition or our knowledge and understanding of the nature of God. The nature of God is revealed right here. Right here. And this is the truth. This is the truth to gird about you like a belt. To be strong. To be strong. So, in the rest of the chapter, he just says, man, it used to be really good. In chapter 30, he says, now this is what it's like. People who are worthless, people who I considered bums, now they're mocking me and nobody says anything about it. And then in chapter 30, verse 20, take a look there. Job complains directly to God. This is what he says. I cry out to you, but you do not answer me. I stand up, and you regard me, but you have become cruel to me. With the strength of your hand you oppose me. You lift up to the wind and cause me to ride on it. You spoil my success. For I know you're just going to bring me to death, to the house appointed for all living. Job says, look, I pray, and you don't say anything. You don't do anything. You don't take notice of me. God, you are being cruel to me. You are opposing me. You're just going to kill me. You see, he's gone from that knowledge of the nature of God based on truth to the nature of God based on his circumstances. I'm not saying ignore circumstances, but I'm saying they're not the place to start in understanding who God is. They're not the right place to start. And then, man, Job comes real close then to really stepping over the line where God would have to say to Satan, well, you know what? He did cross the line. Because from there on, Job starts trusting in his own righteousness. He says in verse 24, surely he would not stretch out his hand against a heap of ruins if they cry out when he destroys it. Have I not wept for him who was in trouble? Has not my soul grieved for the poor? And then there and through the rest of the chapter 31, he basically talks about all the good things he's done. This is where he starts placing his trust in what he has done. He talks about his purity. I've made a covenant with my eyes. I will not look on another woman. If I have looked upon another woman, let my wife commit adultery with someone else. He says in very explicit, poetic language. He talks about his integrity. Hey, I'm honest. I'm right. I do what is right. He talks about his justice. He talks about his charity. He talks about the fact that, man, I have no greed. He talks about the fact that he doesn't delight in the misfortunes of other peoples. This is where Job ends speaking in saying, God is opposing me. He's not watching over me anymore. And I am a good person. Look at what all I've done. If I haven't been, he says, if I haven't been a good person, well then let this happen, let that happen. That's where he's come to. It's not the right way to pray. It's not the right way to talk to God. It's not the right attitude to have. The fact that Job, the most righteous guy up to this point in time, and a pretty righteous guy, he's up there in the top 10 in the Bible in righteousness as far as I'm concerned. If he gets to that place in his suffering and difficulty of coming to this place, then don't feel condemned if you come to that place. But don't stay there. Don't stay there. That's the message of Job. Don't stay there. And God sends this guy Elihu. And then God himself comes and sets Job right. Sets him right. So we come to chapter 32, and we have a new guy coming on the scene. Notice what happens. Chapter 32, verse 1. So these three men ceased answering Job. They go back and forth arguing, and they can't convince each other of anything. Because he was righteous in his own eyes. And then the wrath of Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite of the family of Ram, was aroused against Job. His wrath was aroused because he justified himself rather than God. He justified himself rather than God. He said, God, you are not fair. What did you say? If God was a dad like I was a dad to my kids, or like my dad was to me, that's what Job would have heard when he said that. God, you're not fair. What did you say? My kids can testify to this. They were not allowed to say certain things in the household, and they were not allowed to use certain tones of voice with their parents. And when they did, that was an expression that would come out. What did I hear you say? What did you just say? Don't use that tone of voice with me. I can almost hear God saying that to Job. What did you just say? What? I am not fair? I am not fair? The one who defines justice and righteousness? I'm not fair? Sounds to me like your wisdom and knowledge is a little bit off there, Job. Verse 3, also against his three friends his wrath was aroused because they had found no answer and yet had condemned Job. They couldn't come to the reason on why things were the way they were. They couldn't come to an agreement on everything, so they just decided to condemn Job. I don't know what's going on, so it must be you, Job. Boy, we can so quickly condemn other people, can't we? We can so quickly look at other people's difficulties. Say, well, man, you probably deserve that. I seem to remember a story about someone with a giant log in their eye and someone else with a little splinter in their eye, and the guy with the log in his eye going, here, let me help you with that little splinter in your eye. Jesus said that. And it's so easy for us to do that. It's a safe place to be. It's a safe place to be because that puts us in the right and away from suffering and wrong. So Elihu, he corrects everyone. He's a young man. It says, verse 4, now because they were years older than he, Elihu had waited to speak to Job. We didn't even know he was there in the beginning until right here. He was so quiet. And so he answered and said, I'm young in years and you are very old. Oh, well, thank you very much. Therefore I was afraid and dared not declare my opinion to you. I said, age should speak and multitude of years should teach wisdom. But there is a spirit in man, and the breath of the Almighty gives him understanding. Great men or aged men are not always wise, nor do the aged always understand justice. Therefore I say, listen to me, and I also will declare my opinion. I waited for your words. I listened to your reasonings while you searched out what to say, and I paid close attention to you. And surely not one of you convinced Job or answered his words. Lest you say, we have found wisdom. God will vanquish him, not man. Now he has not directed his words against me, so I will not answer him with your words. So now, as everybody else has gotten quiet, he says, okay, I was respectful, I listened, but you guys haven't convinced Job of anything, and so now I'm going to tell you what I have to say, because you know what? The Spirit of God dwells within us, he says, in a sense. The breath of God made us alive. Therefore, I've got something to say too, even though I'm young, is what he's saying there.